The thoughts, views, and comments expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production of Glory 93.9 FM.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street.
Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. As always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Hope you had a good weekend. So today is a special day. I know I said it all the time, right? But it's really special today because I have two people on the set with me today who I go way back with. I mean, from way back in my early days in journalism and the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. This lady who's on the show with me today, she helped grow me up. I remember when I first started, everybody know I've been knocking around long, right? So back then, they didn't have computers or laptop, and we used to be typing on the typewriter. You could hear them laughing. I might as well pull them in the stream already, right? So let me just go ahead and add them both to the stream. So back in the day, we used to be, typing on the typewriter, and I had this really bad habit when I first started. I used to sit down and write everything on the paper first to, pull my thoughts together because we had like clip and paste, right? So I used to sit down and write everything out and try to put my thoughts together and then go to the typewriter. So this woman y'all see sitting on the set, Deborah Bartlett, come to me one day. She said, "Michelle, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing my story." "This is ridiculous. You are wasting time. Go straight to the typewriter." I said, "But go to the typewriter and start typing." I say, "Yes, Mom." But I'm glad she did that because it forced me to be able to edit as I went along. Okay, this is what made me the journalist that I am today. So I want to thank you, Debbie Bartlett.
I forgot that. I sure remember now.
For putting the whip on me. And then this gentleman who's in the studio with us. It's amazing, right? Because Debbie was sort of the way through the door for me and helping to train me. And I feel like in some parts I did that for Jerome because he came in when I was in more of a leadership role in the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. And Jerome and I, man, listen, we're not just partners in crime as it relates to friendship, but he plays an integral role in the Miss Bahamas organization, and we go way back from ZNS days as far as journalism is concerned. So welcome both of you to GPS, and thank you so much I feel like this is a reunion, man.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I was going to dress up if I know. All of this fabulousness was going to be in it.
So the reason I brought these two giants in media here with me at GPS today is because I want to talk about something that I think is something we need to be paying attention to. And unfortunately, it's not just here in the Bahamas, but I see this happening really around the world. And you know me, I try to make the show more than just what is happening in the local community, but looking at what is going around the world and how it's impacting us as well. And so I'm calling this show today, Democracy Under Threat, the Dangers of Censorship. And if you haven't already done so, like and share this show. We need to get the word out, y'all, because a key part of a healthy democracy is the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, the freedom to gain information, access to information. All of this is extremely important to a healthy democracy. And when you see that under threat in any way, then you need to wake up and realize, okay, is this a threat to our democracy? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I thought it would be great to have two veteran journalists here with me on the set to discuss this most important issue. So first and foremost, let's get started with a video clip to explain what is censorship. We hear the word thrown around all the time. Oh, I'm being censored. Oh, they censor. Well, what really is censorship? Let's take a look at that.
In broad terms, censorship occurs when individuals, groups, or government officials decide that certain images, information, or ideas are so objectionable that no one should have access to them. This so-called offensive content can be found in books, magazines, films, videos, or works of art. Censorers succeed when the materials are edited, restricted to particular audiences, or removed from public access, no matter if that access is at a library, school, bookstore, art gallery, or other institution. You might have an idea in your head about who attempts censorship, but individuals who try to censor materials come from a variety of backgrounds and have many different viewpoints. Censorship attempts often get rationalized because the censoring party thinks that there is a clear distinction between something that is good and morally uplifting and something that is wrong and morally corrupting. They believe that their actions will prevent other people from being negatively influenced. But can you think of any instance where things were really that cut and dry? Arguments can be made for and against the value of any piece of media, and it's doubtful that there's anything that 100% of people would agree is 100% good or bad. So what are some of the reasons people have for trying to censor materials? The most frequent things that get censored include depictions of nudity, sexuality or violence, offensive language, LGBTQIA+ content, political or religious beliefs, adult content, or things that are not appropriate for children. But is censorship really something that is still happening now? Yes, all the time. However, it is increasingly non-governmental institutions and private companies that are making decisions about censorship and what can and cannot have an accessible platform. For example, if you listen to the radio, you're probably exposed to censorship on a daily basis. Many commercial radio stations play edited versions of songs that remove curse words, references to sex or drugs. In late 2018, social networking site Tumblr banned all adult content. As a private company, they can decide what their platform allows, but their policies still led to widespread censorship. And the transition showed how hard it is to enforce such a broad and hard-to-define ban, as some of Tumblr's own examples of content that was still permitted were hidden after its filtering system automatically flagged them as adult. The best way for anyone who wants to start to fight against censorship, be vocal when you see censorship taking place in your local community, and keep informed about what sorts of materials are being censored and the reasons why.
All right. So, guys, I know when people hear about censorship, they think that's someplace far, far, far away that this is happening. But we have examples of it going on right here in the Bahamas, and I dare say more so now than I've seen in a long, long time. From your daily experiences, what do you believe are some of the things that we are facing as it relates to censorship in this country? Any one of you?
Gentlemen's first.
I think what you have happening is we're becoming intolerant of opposing views. We're becoming more intolerant of the things that we don't want to hear about or we don't like. And so you find, I see moves happening to quiet, to deny access to, and unfortunately, even to demonize some groups or individuals who are opposing some things. And for me, I think I see it really, the basis of all of it is intolerance. I think we become so intolerant of each other and opposing views, and intolerant of the things that make us uncomfortable.
I really like how you opened the show and you gave an overview. But I believe in our context, and I think globally, since we're talking about a global community, there is no freedom without the boundaries of values.
Absolutely.
And so we have to also define what censorship is. It's very, very subtle and insidious. It's also thought control. And the way we are guilty of that thought control is not that outright censorship that the average person identifies. It's withholding information. It's really imposing on the ignorance of people that, for example, I believe that a part of our censorship is when we do not, as the press, make a distinction between how we report towards an end for a nation. We should, in everything that we are doing right now, and even before COVID-19, we've been talking about it since 1973, or let's go back 1967 rather, for majority rule, is that we are supposed to be headed towards economic security, economic independence. We allow ourselves, which comes back to your question of what we see, to be distracted by defaming others, by really focusing on things that are non-productive, crime, without sufficient attention of the strategies that we need to move forward. And don't make the same mistake that the 4 hurricanes we come out and we think we have changed in Freeport. And then we have Dorian. And we still don't see a shift in the mindset of people to say, what are we going to do differently? And we are here in COVID with the entire global community changing without that transformation. So to what Jerome is saying in terms of intolerance, we have developed an intolerance for anything that opposes our view.
Yes.
And so if we do not understand, if 2 people always agree, someone is unnecessary. We don't, and that is the
That's
threat.
deep, Debbie. That's deep.
That is the threat to democracy.
That's deep.
Because you cannot have, and we have to also be able to define, differentiate, know the difference. But if you have a different view, it is not for me to demonize you.
Yes.
That's where you are in your growth. And we all hopefully are growing every day. But what is it that we are, are we agreeing on principle-based? And what do I mean? We can have different opinions of these things that we demonize each other on. But do we have a similarity or an agreement on the vision where we're going? And
That would be no.
because we ain't talking about vision.
No.
So that's my point. So what I'm saying, Michelle, is that, look, we cannot agree unless we are governed by vision. And that vision, knowing the laws that's going to protect, cultivate that environment. That's why I say we are guilty of censorship in our ignorance, or can it be that there are a constituency of people that know exactly what they're doing, and we continue not to learn from it and continue to be fooled by it?
Well, I think that there you have said something very important.
Yes.
These distractions are put there to cause us not to pay attention to things like economic independence, cause us not to focus on bettering ourselves through education, not becoming more self-sufficient in our lives. And you're right. As I see it, much of what's happened is orchestrated by a few.
Exactly.
And so if we continue to allow those same people to cause us to butt heads constantly, we're constantly in a clash with each other,
Yeah.
and we are so busy fighting each other and demonizing each other that we don't have time to take advantage of the prosperity that's around us, or the potential for the prosperity, because we're so busy down in the trenches fighting each other that we're not getting together to say, well, if I buy rice from you, from me, we're going to both prosper.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm busy trying to destroy your rice farm, and you're busy trying to destroy my chicken farm.
Mm-hmm.
And so neither of us prosper.
Let me talk about those few. Those true people don't have a color,
No, agreed. We always like to throw rock at the light skinned ones.
Let's be honest, it's the white man. That's what we say.
And the black man.
Yeah, no, but we quick to say, it's the white man giving me down. They taking everything from me.
But we got some black oligarchs too.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the elitists.
Okay, and what they have done so effectively, we always hear about it. They say you when you're climbing up the ladder, you're supposed to reach back and pull somebody else up with you. But this crew, not only aren't they pulling anybody up, not only did they knock over the ladder, no, that ain't good enough, because you could put the ladder back up. This crew
decimate the ladder.
They pull the ladder up with them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making sure you ain't gonna get up there. And meanwhile, they have become experts at smoke and mirrors, distraction, putting this, out in the public space, and putting that out in the public space so y'all could run on and rah and ray over that. And meanwhile, they sitting back with their arm folded, smiling all the way to the bank, saying, "Look at these idiots." And this is all a part of this sinister, I call it a sinister plot, to keep us, when I say us, the masses, from advancing. I tell people all the time, to me, the problem is not that our leaders don't know any better. To me, that it's sinister because they know what they're doing and they're benefiting from this. And it is up to you, us, to wake up, smell the coffee, and say enough is enough. We're not going to stand for this anymore. Demand better from the leaders that you elect, so that more Bahamians are able to enjoy a piece of this pie. I find that young people especially are so tired of the status quo that they listen, the same thing with their parents and grandparents accepted easily. These young people ain't playing that. And I think for that reason, we're going to see, I think, something interesting happen in this next election in particular, because you have so many young people now who are stepping forward and making their voices heard. This censorship thing is so real, because we are saying now, I mean, okay, back in the day when we were all in ZNS, censorship back then was, I remember when Bob Marley first came out to the Bahamas. And after Bob Marley came, all kind of Rasta was popping up, and everybody, growing the hair and smoking the weed and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, ZNS decided to stop playing Bob Marley music and stop playing reggae music, stop playing reggae music, right? That was censorship. But that is child's play compared to what we see going on in this country today. I mean, when you have the media being stifled, and by that I mean, I have never in my days thought, I never thought I would come to the place where I would see where the media is being controlled by saying, you come to my press conference, but you can only ask 2 questions. And you don't try follow up on none of the 2 questions what you ask. If I do my song and dance around the question what you ask and they answer it, because they become experts at that. You go to these press conferences and you ask a question and they run it on for 10 minutes with an answer, and then when you really sit down and think what they say, they ain't answer your question yet.
I complain about it constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess sometimes I'm the voice aloud in the wilderness. But it is ludicrous to hold a press conference and to say you get 1 or 2 questions. And don't give me the excuse, because we have so many members of the media. That's not the answer. Let the press conference go longer. Or just allow 1 individual per media house if you want to limit, but to say, we're limiting the time because we have too many people. What it does, it doesn't allow you as a journalist to even sink your teeth into that press conference, because you may have, and you all know this, you may have 5-10 questions coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're sitting there and the information you get, you develop 5 more. And so at the end of the day, you're sitting there looking at 10 questions, trying to figure out which 2 you're going to ask, on the hope that somebody else after you will tackle one of those. But it does not allow for the free flow of information. And the problem that we continue to have in this country is because there is such a lack of understanding and lack of information it's created now all of this misinformation and distrust.
Mm-hmm.
And so, people, it's so unfortunate now. We're to the point where people don't believe anything they hear anymore. And it's frightening. And it blows my mind.
I would like to add a dimension to that.
Mm-hmm.
And agree to disagree of some of it, because I want to talk about what I have observed. I'm not in the full daily run of media at this moment. And I feel so good. I'm coming back. that saddle feeling good, Jerome.
I only pop it out every now and again.
I mean, I have a weekly show, on a channel. But here's the point. I do believe that there has to be some time limits. You're talking about people who run in the country, and if you look at the White House, they give you so much time. You better get them questions. And when you were talking, I was thinking about when Mandela came in, and the few of us got to go down there to interview him, and I thank God I got to answer 2 questions. But there was a journalist who went in there, and it was very disruptive and rude, and nobody else got the opportunity to ask him the questions. But the point that I'm making is this: what I believe is missing in our community today is to demonstrate the respect for senior journalists like yourself. I believe that where we would have gone wrong and where Sir Lyndon went right is that they had a pecking order for journalists.
Yeah.
There was nobody in the newsroom had a nerve to even think, I guess, that they were covering the prime minister.
Yeah.
There was 1, 2, 3.
And you didn't go to the house.
And you didn't go to the house. The senior.
You actually
position.
had to earn that.
You had to
Yeah.
earn that. So you knew when I came, it was Ed Bethel, Obi Wilchcombe, myself. Then when Ed Bethel moved off the scene, it was Obi, myself. Then it was Michelle. And then when we moved off, you came. But everybody, as we moved up, there was succession planning, in other words, where you would have earned your position to talk to a prime minister. The Honorable Hubert Ingram came in, first year, disaster. He learned his lesson quick, came back, and started that kind of protocol again. I don't know where this thing is, and let me say this: you will find some talented young journalists who got it naturally. But when you put a young journalist to put a mic in front of a prime minister, in front of the same protocol, when the succession planning was the next most senior would go to the ministers. So now we have removed, that's why I started by saying there's no freedom without the boundaries of values. You have to have some laws. And so now what we have is reporters, journalists being allowed, wherever you stop, in front of cabinet, everybody throwing their little questions and things like that. And I mean, that's fine and good.
I call it ambush journalism.
Ambush journalism, I like that. What should happen is that at least, and this is what Prime Minister Ingram did, this is what the late Sir Lyndon allowed, have, if it's once a month, once a quarter, sit down with the senior journalists on one-on-one interviews and let's speak to the nation through the interviews, and so that you don't have this, I don't know what it is, to find it, even though it's good to be able to hear from them, that you are able to follow up and say, well, sir, to hold that leader accountable, and for even not only accountability, just for clarity sometimes.
You know, sometimes I watch our leaders, and I don't give them right for it, but I watch them. They're put off sometimes by the approach of the reporters because there's no deference to the office, and you don't have to like the individual, you don't have to support,
exactly,
but you must show deference.
That's it. That's
to the office.
Yes.
And that is where we go wrong sometimes.
And
that's where some of my colleagues
undermining it.
And because of that, now there is this mutual level of disrespect because our leaders don't respect the press, and the press do not have that deference for our leaders. Now, whether you think the person is a scoundrel or they're doing a bad job or they thief or whatever it is, that ain't your business.
Exactly.
You are there to do a job. And if you are trying to get to that story, there is a way to do that as well. And we talked about it even before coming in. It's a way to interview. I always tell people interviewing is an art. It is an art.
It is.
And we don't seem to be able, a lot of, I wouldn't say all, some do a very good job at it, but by and large, most times I'm watching it and it just looks like an ambush. They just pounce upon them. What about this and tell me about that and what? And I'm like, this ain't get you nowhere. Yeah, this will not. And I'm saying, it's like a train wreck. And I'm going, this is not going to. And then what the other unfortunate part is that our leaders are not media savvy. They're not trained properly in how to deal with the media.
And it shows.
It shows clearly. In other countries, in the United States, when you offer yourself for public office, it's like you go through an assembly line.
Exactly.
And so they prepare you. You learn how to answer questions. We know about how to pivot and point when they don't answer questions.
Exactly.
They will talk you all around that, but you have to be keen enough to pull them back. But and it's your demeanor, it's the decorum. Not that they all do a great job at it, but that's what we lack in this country. And so the public sees it. We as senior journalists, I know, because sometimes I cringe. I watch it and I cringe and I think, you can't address the minister like that, or you don't take that tone. And then sometimes too, I think what we also do is we watch, for instance, you might see a spa in the White House. You may see a particular journalist and the press secretary or, even the president go at it, and we think, oh yeah, I can do that. Well, first of all, that's a senior journalist. You don't just walk into the White House, as you would have said. You earn your way there. You don't just walk into the Pentagon. And so sometimes those spas, that's at a particular level, because that journalist and that leader, there is a bit of mutual respect, but I can't say previously, homeboy, I don't know what was happening in the previous White House, but and I think we've lost that. You hit the nail right on the head, Debbie. I remember clearly the first time I went into the Senate. I remember I was like, wow, I finally got an opportunity, to be here. I remember I always laugh at the first press conference I went to with former Prime Minister Ingram. I was flanked by Athena Damianis and Gladstone Thurston. I think I got in a half a question.
Yes, they two giants, man.
That was rough.
And they come in with some hard hitting questions.
They were well prepared, not disrespectful.
No.
I sort of fired Ingram.
But they were two of the best. Listen, guys, we have to take a commercial break. Can you all believe the first half hour is already gone, and we've actually passed the first half hour? But when on the other side, what I want to talk about is this. It's not just in terms of the media and censorship, but now there's another form of censorship that we are all too familiar with in this country, and that is a limit to access to information. How long we've been calling for this Freedom of Information Act?
Jesus was a baby.
Since King Hamo was a hot chick. What is going on? Why are they so hesitant to provide us access to this information? That is a form of censorship. We're going to talk about it on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is GPS on Glory 93.9 FM.
Located on Carmichael Road, Divine Designs Hair Boutique is a haven for women and men looking for professional beauty services. Our state-of-the-art and contemporary equipment creates a relaxing ambiance for you to enjoy while we cater to you. Need a hairstylist? We cater to all types and textures of hair for care and styling. We even have a barber on duty. Need a nail tech? Our technicians provide a range of nail services, including the latest trends. Unwind in one of our massage chairs while you get your pedicure. With our reasonable rates, friendly staff, and over 20 years of experience, you will be in great hands. Call us at 823-1669 or 698-1025 to schedule your appointment. Be pampered? Wanna be slayed? Let Divine Designs make your day.
Boy, here calamity. Boy, don't want that be me. Let me get this coverage, do it once and for all. Insurance management is who I gonna call.
When calamity strikes, we're here to keep you safe and secure. With offices in Nassau, Freeport, Abacoa, Lutheran, and Exuma. Insurance management, we cover the Bahamas.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guests in studio today are my former colleagues, Jerome Sawyer and Debbie Bartlett. And before we get back into the conversation, we're talking today about democracy under threat, the dangers of censorship. I want to read a couple of your comments from Facebook. So let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Smith King says, Michelle Malcolm, blessed good morning. The world wanted Iron Man, I don't know, and woman to call good evil and evil good. Okay, I ain't going to fight with that one because I'm a little confusing. Okay, so let's go back to your comments. Merlene says, get rid of these politicians, FNM and PLP. Gifted says, it's called transparency and lack thereof. Okay. Tracy says, a group ratified 26 candidates, and no print media reported it. The DNA leaders have been arrested this morning for violating COVID protocols by hosting a public event. No one is being arrested in a growing illegal communities, all while our PM is out campaigning with dozens in the streets. I hope we're awakened and concerned enough to be a part of the change. Okay. And L. Michelle Fox is watching Jerome, and she says, I agree with Jerome.
Hey, Fox.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, we're now going to turn our attention to the freedom of information or lack thereof, because we need to realize that is a form of censorship. When you are not able to easily put your hands on information, particularly as it relates to the governance of your country, the decisions that are being made in the dark, and all too often in this country in particular, we hear about it after the fact. So, you really have to get to the place where you understand how important it is to have free access to information. Here's a clip that talks about the importance of freedom of access to information.
Imagine one day we wake up without the information to answer critical questions. How do we know what to do in case of a natural disaster, or how to assess which leaders can ensure a better future for our family? We need access to information. Without information, we can't make informed decisions. Aware of this fact, Sweden and Finland introduced access to information into their constitution in 1766. This was a historical breakthrough. It abolished political censorship and gave citizens the legal right to scrutinize and share public documents. Similar ideas inspired thinkers and freedom advocates across the ages, because through access to information, press freedom and freedom of expression can grow. Governments can be held accountable and corruption can be exposed. When the UN was founded, the universal value of free information was recognized by all countries. In 1948, it was inscribed at the core of Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Gradually, more countries started protecting freedom of information in laws and constitutions. But much work needs to be done to make true access to information a reality for everyone everywhere. This means real access for both men and women, regardless of condition, origin, and affiliation. If you request information, you should be able to get it timely and effectively. And know this is your right. World leaders have agreed to make access to information universal by 2030. With open and free information, people can live in a world that is more fair, equal, and transparent. Together, we can make this possible. A world where we can all make informed decisions.
So you think our leaders wait until 2030? You think that's what's going on here? Well, we have until 2030. Why do you believe it's like pulling teeth trying to get this Freedom of Information Act not only passed in the House of Assembly, but enacted to the point where it's a real thing, not just something on a piece of paper, but our leaders now have to account for all these, closed door deals they're making and the decisions that they're making, because we should have access to this information. What do you guys think? Well, why do you believe that we're seeing such a hold up, and what do we need to do to change this?
We operate in a culture of secrecy in this country, when it comes to governance, when it comes to the running of this country, and everybody's guilty of it. The decisions are made and the information is passed along and passed down when we see fit. And a Freedom of Information Act would hold so many more people accountable. It will cause for more questions to be asked. It would put information in the public realm that would make people even more uncomfortable. What we see happening is another level of control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm controlling the access. I'm controlling the flow. I'm controlling the information. I control what you know, which gives me now the freedom in the background to do as I like and to not be accountable. It's as simple as, you will, and you all know this, you will call into a particular ministry to get basic information. And they'll tell you, oh no, you have to talk to the PS, or you have to get it from the director.
I know, right?
Oh,
you
no, I
try to
can't
get
give you that
information. Oh, you got to get a letter, from this one. And I'm like,
a letter. It's what? But and then the sad part, though, what it has led to is you see before sometimes the ink dries on certain documents, they're leaked. And so you have now this situation where the media is getting information from these sources steeped within government and sometimes it's very sensitive information and it's frightening.
Yeah.
You know, that such sensitive information is being put out, you know, long before it's even vetted. And then sometimes I'm asking, well, Lord, is this even true? You know, because you would think that these sensitive documents would not get into the hands of the public, you know, without going through proper vetting. But it is, it's a cultural thing.
Do we have the mindset as well that we can fool the people and make a promise during election?
Debbie, pull the microphone closer to you.
2017, the Freedom of Information Law was placed in the Ingram administration. 4 years later, it has not been enacted. It is a local and global mandate. But then we have to know what you were saying, Jerome, and I fully agree. We have to now determine that we are going to destroy a culture that has evolved, that is counter to the future we were promised from majority rule. We promised to destroy what brought inequalities in the UBP era. And we seem to be improving on the abuses of the UBP.
I say it all the time. All the time.
We stand as a people. Corruption is also a definition that means personal advantage. When you look at the culture that is evolving, that does not have a political label, but is a mindset that seems to be prevailing, that the leaders that we are selecting, for the most part, there's always the innocent, but in too often a case, the leaders that we are electing get in office for personal advantage.
Listen.
To the detriment. Can I just go off for a little minute? Since you, Michelle, talked about global. I remember when I was managing consultant to the Turks and Caicos Premier Michael Missick, who we know still has hanging over him accusations of corruption. And, you know, when we talk about media and our role in thinking things through, I'm going on one little limb here, but I can go anyhow. He was accused of a crime that was signed off by the governor. The governor left town and he's still holding the bag in terms of weighing whether he's guilty or innocent. But I go to the point, what the point is, because I'm saying this, we are very selective in who gets what punished for what crime.
Oh, yeah.
Who's exposed, who is held accountable, and who is let go. But here's what they accused Michael Missick of is, investors will come in and he'll get a little something. I don't want to trivialize it.
Right.
But what he was doing is that he is accused of doing, or what it is said that he did, I'm not concluding, is that he would go to the local people and empower them with crown land. he created more millionaires than perhaps we have done outside of a political clique. You can see, I'm not whether he's guilty or innocent. That's not on trial yet. That's before the courts. I don't want to comment on what they accuse him of. But what I can see is how many people, through his policies, that were economically empowered because of his love for the people. Now, answer me this. Can you say that today? I know Sir Lyndon started it. And see, when you call a politician's name, they start saying, oh, that's just a PNP. I mean, they are so petty, you know? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you have the facts before you, and we know that we see benefit through cronyism, but the danger that we are facing in this country is that performance is not rewarded.
That's correct.
Compromise is elevated.
And she drops the mic.
I mean,
Mic drop. No, you're so right, Debbie. You on point.
people are entering politics and trying to get into public life purely for personal gain and
Yeah.
personal benefit, and
Yeah.
you see it. It's and because we are unfortunately in a 5-year, it seems, 5-year government cycle, people use those 5 years to gain as much as they can. And that, right back to Michelle, to your question about the Freedom of Information Act. That's why there is a resistance, because then everybody will be held accountable. See, you can't just blame the politician,
No.
Who getting the contracts? Who is benefiting
Well, now,
from these things, from these decisions that are being made?
talk it.
Who are the benefactors? What is their connection? Have they done the work that they were paid and contracted to do? And then we have, and you talked about it as well, we have this culture where we seem to think the people's money is ours. You work in government and you talking about you borrowing. You say, gosh, yeah, you borrowing 30,000.
Well, I was compared back.
Or giving yourself
People special,
And then mad.
Have you call them out?
And then and you and I show up and try and get something done, and Joel, you better try leave me $50
Yeah.
to get it. That's corruption.
It is.
That is and it is rife through the public service, and we don't want to address it.
It is so ingrained. It's become a part of our culture to the point where we
Yes.
think it's normal to do this. And anybody who points it out and says, no, like you just said, that's corruption. They look at you like, what you talking about?
Child, you must say more this way.
Everybody got to live,
Yeah, exactly.
And you know something, when we look, what frightens me, where there's a law that says if you want to destroy corruption, expose it. So that's the Freedom of Information law, because that access to freedom undermines and defeats corruption. And you can look at any country. And what is frightening to me is that we have developed a culture where we live on our successes of the past. We say that we were the number one tourism industry and fallen, and still saying we number one. I can't. And then they change it to, and say, okay, in the English speaking, that's
I love that.
My God.
That's because of the Dominion
Yeah.
Dominican Republic in our head.
They right next door.
It is absolutely amazing that we do not see that time, circumstances, current events is telling us that we must change what we do, how we do it. And to your point, Jerome, when you got to pay your little $50, if we look at, and it's very embarrassing to me, because we have some of the greatest minds and skill sets in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean. We ride on the most stable region in the Western Hemisphere. But when I go and I look at, when we talk about freedom, where those countries that have the greatest freedom of press and the results, there are some commonalities for sustainable development and success. You look at New Zealand, you look at Switzerland, you look at Finland. Look, if you look at those countries' profiles, they have freedom of the press. Why? Because the governments ain't scared of what they're doing. You have business-friendly environments. There's not a lot of red tape. And it doesn't go by who you vote for, if they like you or not, and they don't think you should achieve. Because they recognize that when there is a culture of peace and prosperity, governance is easier. And then we have to now be careful that we do not allow ourselves to fall victim to, oh Lord, I hope I don't get beaten for this.
Child, the truth has a new home. Talk the truth.
No, I want to say, Michelle, when I look, the 10 poorest countries in the world, Black governed. We keep looking at white. But you can't abandon your responsibility, my responsibility, to fulfill our purpose and give that right to another race or another nation. And you said it earlier, Jerome. Let me tell you something. We hate to see it's self-hatred,
Oh, yeah.
We hate to see each other succeed. We don't believe that God had an idea for us personally that is big enough to give us and supply all of our needs, to live in a place of comfort. And we seem to refuse to be comfortable with someone who is comfortable in what they do, who is good at what they do, and end up rewarding that because then it's good for the country. We are distracted. See, that's the censorship right now. We allow systems, or the people that govern systems might be a better way of saying it, to distract us, to attack each other and undermine each other, because we are not looking at the bigger picture to say, look, there's enough room for black and white, PLP and FNM, FNM and PLP and DNA. Now we got, you know what? When you see all of these parties, it means that there's too much of a splinter and we are not united by a vision. People can't see where they fit. So to have the number of parties, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a what. That identifies that we are very challenged.
Yeah.
We are very challenged.
Yes.
Very, very challenged. And I think people have lost confidence in leadership. But as we lose confidence in leadership, I invite people to first step back and look at yourself. See, who we elect really are a reflection of us,
My God, say that again. Say that again.
Who we elect are a reflection of us.
That's it.
You cannot empower the politician to continue to have power over you by taking things for your vote.
And so cheap.
And then when he or she gets into power and sets on their own agenda, now you want to complain. Well, you didn't advocate for anything. You didn't demand anything. You gave up your vote for
a bowl of porridge.
Exactly. And like you said, Debbie, the same thing we accuse the UBP of. Like I think, we used to say, oh, the UBP come and send rice and thing. and flour to people in Ireland to buy their vote. So what's the difference now? We selling T-shirts with money and throwing month-long party to headquarters, and we doing these things and just promises of things that they're not delivering on. We are electing who we are.
My God.
You cannot blame the people you send to Parliament. We got to blame ourselves.
Ouch.
Who are we creating in terms of a society of people? We're creating a society of selfish people? My God, look what happens to us in the aftermath of hurricanes. We are on the verge of killing each other sometimes. I just pray God. I say, honest to God, we almost come to on the verge of that. I take people back to Matthew. Remember Hurricane Matthew? About to fight over ice. And yeah, so we've created now selfish generations. We have taken the emphasis off education. We are victims of our own success, and by that I mean we have done so great. We number one in the English-speaking tourism, English-speaking Caribbean in terms of tourism. But that's meant that you don't have to try hard. You don't have to study. You don't have to pay attention, because I can get a job when I graduate, and I get dollars, and I can be okay. I can be able to go to Miami. I can be able to buy a car. I can get one house. But that emphasis on education and elevating ourselves is not there. And the minute people disagree, we take to destroying them on social media now. Or we get on the radio shows and you terrorize people, you destroy their character. And what does that do? That keeps the people who really can make a difference, who really do care about country. That keeps them from offering themselves for public service.
And then we wonder why we are, in the words of Darrell Miller, in such a conundrum when it comes to our leadership void. Guys, we have to take another break. But on the other side of the break, don't you go anywhere, because I see all y'all messages about the DNA leader locked up. And in our next segment of the show, we're going to be talking about the freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Where that fits into this whole question of censorship and child is a major problem in this country today. I know how we get here. We can talk about that on the other side. Let me say what I want to say. We can talk about that on the other side of the break. So stay with us. This is GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM.
Ocean blue is the best in seafood, hey, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too, yeah. We got fish, conch, lobster, shrimp, everything you want. Ocean blue got it. Ocean blue, friendly and clean, best service you ever seen. Ocean blue is the best in seafood, yeah. Fresh out the water and affordable too, yeah. Ocean blue seafood, we are here for you. Ocean blue seafood, no one else will do. Ocean Blue Seafood, located on Burnett Road. Contact us at 393-2160.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy Schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information. Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
I'll be putting my earphone back in. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guests today are Debbie Bartlett and Jerome Sawyer, and we are here talking about threat to democracy, the dangers of censorship. And we see increasingly in this country and around the world where censorship is becoming a real problem. And we've been talking about it as it relates to why we believe that our leaders and those around the world who are involved in this are censoring things, because it's really them trying to hold on to control. Now, one of the things that we see happening a lot in this country as of late is censorship as it relates to freedom of expression, association, and assembly. So before we dive into that, let's take a look at this clip about this basic human right that is now under threat.
Healthy democracies are about more than just casting a vote every few years. For democracy to truly flourish, people need to be able to debate issues and exchange ideas freely, to form associations and groups on shared interests, and to challenge power through protest and demonstration. These activities are broadly covered by 3 human rights: the rights to freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of assembly. As we've shown in previous videos, the digital age has transformed the ways in which we can realize these rights, in both good and bad ways. Peer-to-peer networking has created new, freer means of exchanging information and content, and social media has made organizing people easier than ever. But these opportunities have not gone unnoticed by governments, and some are now seeking to close off these opportunities. Freedom of expression, assembly, and association are all protected in international and regional human rights treaties. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. These last 3 words are particularly important in the digital age, where communications are increasingly cross-border and the platforms we use to communicate are based in different jurisdictions. Article 20 of the UDHR is similarly unequivocal. It states that everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. But it's important to note that while protected, none of these rights are absolute. They can all be legitimately restricted on the grounds of national security, public order, and to protect the rights and freedoms of others. Restrictions, both legitimate and illegitimate, are common, but the importance of these rights in enabling democracy is also widely accepted. The right to freedom of expression, in particular, is often strongly protected in national laws and constitutions, and restrictions on it frequently attract media scrutiny. It's hard to overstate the importance of these rights. They're crucial, of course, in their own right. Self-expression is a basic human impulse. But they also enable other rights. What does the freedom to form an opinion mean if there's nowhere to express it? On a practical level, they're important for good governance, society, and the economy. Without them, there is no innovation and no accountability. The Internet has, in many respects, helped to realize and strengthen these rights. As a communications platform, it has given marginalized groups a voice which older technologies, like television, radio, and newspapers, often denied them. It has also given these groups a safer means of organizing themselves. But there are also instances where the internet is being used for harmful activities, from online fraud and child abuse to harassment and incitement. Any human rights defender would accept the need to tackle these threats. The problem is that efforts to limit such activities can often take the form of censorship, surveillance, and closure. Such measures threaten the very characteristics that make the internet such a powerful enabler of human rights, its openness and potential for anonymity. That's why human rights defenders need to fight for digital policies which are balanced, proportionate, evidence-based, and grounded in human rights principles. As with other rights, national and regional courts have a crucial role in protecting the rights to freedom of expression, assembly, and association. The UN's Human Rights Council and Special Rapporteurs are also important. The Special Rapporteur for Freedom of Expression, for example, regularly seeks input from a range of stakeholders and forwards their findings to all UN member states. Of course, it is also important to hold governments accountable for respecting these rights. In cases where this is difficult at the national level, going through bilateral and multilateral diplomatic channels is also an option. For example, you can engage with government representatives in policy forums like the Internet Governance Forum and RightsCon. Apart from that, there are many civil society initiatives worldwide committed to supporting these rights, including Human Rights Watch, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Access Now, Bytes for All, Social Media Exchange, Amnesty International, as well as transparency and evidence-gathering initiatives like onlinecensorship.org or the Open Observatory of Network Interference. Businesses are an important part of this ecosystem too, and their roles within it can be fluid. Sometimes tech companies like Facebook or Google can act as censors of content. Here, pressure and criticism from human rights defenders is vital. At other times, however, they may themselves be the victims of censorship or blocking, or they may stand alongside civil society in opposing state measures, as some Silicon Valley companies did when the controversial Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act was introduced in 2015 in the US.
So, this is increasingly becoming a problem in this country. And you just heard that clip. These governments have signed on to international agreements that really protect the human right of freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Yet here in the Bahamas, particularly now since we've had these COVID-19 restrictions, people are being locked up for trying to protest against what they see to be wrong. As we speak, the leader of the DNA is in cuffs somewhere in police custody. Jerome is in the news media still, and he's getting word now from his team that she was allegedly arrested for some public protest 3 weeks ago, Jerome?
Well, yeah, I sort of got a tip from one of my members out there that apparently she was brought in for questioning about some demonstration a couple of weeks ago. This isn't anything new. And so we're waiting on the final details now, but it doesn't seem that it was anything very recent.
So how we get to the place in this country where you are a criminal to protest against wrong? How help me
I don't
here.
know what the police's argument is. Maybe she didn't have a permit. Maybe.
How we get to the place where you need a permit to protest? Somebody can explain to me. Somebody make it make sense, please. How we get to this place where you need a permit to protest? Because from what I understand the law to be, you're supposed to advise the police that you're protesting more so for protection as opposed to them giving you permission to protest. Now, am I wrong here? What is going on in this country? And if you sitting back and watching this and you don't understand that this is a threat to our democracy, listen, people, I keep saying it, y'all need to put down the green, put down the red, put down the yellow, and pick up the aquamarine, gold, and black. Our democracy is under threat. We see the people in all the red t-shirt, all campaigning all over the place. I see no social distancing going on there. Same thing with the yellow. And I'm not standing here to make an argument for Orinthia Komalafi and her party. But my point is this. How is it that ain't nobody in there for them get locked up? For all the campaign they've been doing, ain't nobody in the PLP get locked up. But you won't put cuss on this woman for something 3 weeks ago?
I don't know how the police would allow themselves to be put in this position at this stage. If it was something that was even done at that point, you intervene then. I can't understand.
Could I go?
Sure.
Well, 3 weeks lapse is absolutely wrong. But the question I have is, and why I would not want to conclude, but it brings up another question. I don't know whether Orinthia Komalafi had a permit. And if she didn't have a permit, then it's breaking the law. But if she did not have a permit, it also speaks to what we talked about earlier in the program.
What does the law say as it relates to these permits?
The permit, you have to have a permit. If it is in a public down Bay Street, you have to have a permit, as far as I understand it. Now,
you have to have some level of permission.
You have to have permission before you go
some
down.
Level of permission, whether it's a permit or it's a
So I would be wary to conclude because I don't know
the facts, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is another challenge with journalism, that we conclude without hearing all sides of the story.
And of course, the public is going to conclude immediately.
The public is going to conclude, so we have to say, okay, let's hold on. Yeah. But now,
but have we always needed to have a permit to protest?
You always.
And what does that permit speak to? That's what I'm trying to get at.
You always needed the police's permission. I don't know if it was
permission
something in writing. Or I don't know, but I know it had to be sanctioned by the police.
You had to go to the police. You had to submit in writing.
Permission or acknowledgement?
Well, it's permission. Acknowledgement is because they could deny you. So
they can.
They have.
But is that legal? That's what I'm asking.
And I don't know what has all changed under the emergency orders, because I think now these emergency orders are put on another layer.
Exactly.
And so it could be in violation. Again, this is all speculation. I don't know. But again, the police would have to answer, and I would hope that they would come forward very quickly and speak to this.
Because you see, when justice is not swift,
delayed,
wickedness grows in the heart of man.
Justice
denied. Justice delayed, justice denied. So if there was an infraction, like you said, 3 weeks ago, that day, the next day, you could kind of understand it. It's a question of 3 weeks. But the challenge is so that every decision you make has a consequence, and it also implicates something or someone else. If on one end, again, I'm not judging one way or the other, but just since I'm talking about a circumstance that we are faced with right now, if Komalafi was guilty of not having a permit and it's ignored, it sets a precedent, because the next person who come down then looks at the fact that she was not held accountable for it. On the other hand, what she might be able to do, or a circumstance like this, can look at other examples where, like you talk about the other colors of the other party.
You think they get permit for every time they go on the street to campaign?
No, but I don't know that.
Yeah,
we don't know, and we can't conclude unless we have the evidence to show.
Right.
But we know, let's look at this as a principle-based thing, not this particular circumstances. We know that the laws are applied differently. And that is a part of the unraveling of the democracy.
And that's where the anger comes from the public.
Anger comes from, yeah.
Because the law is many times dealt differently.
But we have to go back to this question of these international treaties that all of our leaders have signed upon, one of which gives us the freedom of expression, association, and assembly. So how do you balance the two? How do you say, on the one hand, you have a human right to freedom of expression and assembly, and on the other hand, you say, but the police got to give you permission to do so? How do you balance the two?
Well, Michelle, can I challenge you there?
Please, go ahead.
Because I started the show by saying there's no freedom without the boundaries, some boundaries. The sea got the sand. And in your first clip, it talked about freedom of speech and talking about profanity. We need a boundary there. It is embarrassing. You go down and the main, and thank God for COVID in that sense. You're walking down on a main street and the profanity flying around. I travel the world. I have never heard that kind of lewd, and that is not the character of the Bahamian people.
Right. In the heart of downtown,
that's
you hear
in the
it.
heart of town. I
Mhm.
mean, it is awful.
Mhm.
And then we talk about nudity in our laws, and then we let the tourists come in, and they walk downtown naked. Give a G-string, and because they are a tourist, and that's against the law. We allow it, and so we set a precedent, and so the Bahamians start doing it as well. When that is against that's why I'm saying we have to determine, when we're talking about democracy, when we're talking about freedom, what are the values that we believe will sustain the growth and development of our country? Because not everything that people decide to do is in the interest of our growth and development.
Also, I would think, to add to that freedoms and rights come with responsibilities. Your freedom of speech cannot be to defame others and to get in the public space and to say anything and malicious statements, malign people's characters, make all kinds of innuendos and things of that nature. So, in that respect, we've got to become more responsible with the freedom. And, social media has shown us what a lack of boundaries can cause.
I want to read a comment from one of our former colleagues, Yvette Stewart, Dr. Yvette Stewart. Hey, Stewart. She says, if a permit was needed, she's talking back in the day, if a permit was needed, permits were given. Why are permits not given now? Some permits were not given even before the COVID emergency. She raises a very valid point, because the danger is that people will be able to use this as another means of censorship, as another means of control. And that is exactly, I dare say it, I allege, that is what we see happening in this country today. Because you can't tell me that a handful of people going down Bay Street to protest against what they believe is injustice on equality is a danger to the general public. So why you got all these cocky police officers, not no little constable, cocky uniform, senior police officers trying to lock people up for protesting under the guise of, you didn't get permission, you didn't get a permit.
There's the fundamental issue that we were just talking about. It is not, the law doesn't seem to be equal, and it's not being dealt out fairly. Again, which reverts right to what we were talking about. The reason that the public is so angry is that there are blaring examples of how unfair some of these laws are, or some policies are. And you're quite right, because if that is the case, then no one should be out campaigning and moving around like that.
The job of the journalist in this situation, we should hear a report today or tomorrow. Today. I only say give a little time to do in this environment. Okay, what is the policy?
Yeah.
And how has it been applied? Who has been denied? Is there a precedent where anybody?
And what is the basis of the denial? What is the basis of the denial?
That's the point.
If you're denying, what is the basis? And
again,
if we got a freedom of information.
That's why I say it may take another day.
Because you see,
you
see, one of the tactics that's allegedly being used is that you apply for the permit.
They don't give it to you.
But they don't know. Not only do they not give it to you, they don't even respond.
Wow.
So, in other words, no. You can afford to apply, but if I don't respond to you and your date come up and you decide to take your chance and go on the street, I could lock you up because you ain't got an appointment. But it would have been nice if you had responded to my request.
Yeah.
That is repeatedly happening. And it is an outright assault on our democracy. See, guess what? I will never forget the picture of the We March, when thousands of Bahamians, hundreds, however many they were, hit the streets to protest against what they perceived to be the wrong of the then administration. And on the front of the line was one man named Hubert Minnis, arms locked, front of the line. And when you look at what is happening in our country now, I'm sorry, but it seems that we are living in some kind of police state where they're making it almost impossible for you Even if, shoot, they lock up Fontella Dean Chipman for unlawful assembly, and she was one person. How you gonna have unlawful assembly with one person protesting? But this the foolishness what's going on in this country today. Now we could sit up here, and I agree with everything that you said, Debbie. I agree with everything you said, Jerome, in terms of you have to have boundaries and laws, etc. But do not frustrate the people to the point where you are using that as a what's the word I'm looking for? You're using this loophole to stop people from protesting when you yourself was on the front of the line with your arms locked. So how come it was good then, but all of a sudden now, under these restrictions for COVID only does work when there's people against you. Because when you and your people campaign and COVID don't work then. COVID don't spread then. There's this degree of hypocrisy. And I dare say that because we are so polarized when it comes to politics, we really, we got a bunch of gang members out there. Y'all talk about them boys on the street. Y'all are worse gangs than them. Because once you ain't wearing the red, then I can't be for you. Once you ain't wearing, so we have these gangs, this tribalistic mentality that can only see wrong if somebody else does it. And we're standing by and we're watching this happen and we're trying to justify it. I have a problem with that, y'all. I have a problem with that. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't follow laws. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have boundaries. But when you see injustice like this, where people are being locked up because you claim they ain't get no permit that you refuse to respond to the request for, something ain't right.
But Michelle, do we want to? You finished?
Yes, go right ahead, please.
You hot over
I stepped off my my soapbox.
You're taking this AC blower. Cool on the road.
Y'all know me long time. Y'all know I'm a very passionate person.
Yes, absolutely. That's good. That's what makes you. But listen, I think we're saying the same thing, but there's a little detail here because of the mindset of our people, and I think that the mindset of our people, we have allowed ourselves to make decisions without getting all the information. And I think it is important for us to now re-engage our people to be patient with process. And what do I mean like that? I ain't talking about no long bureaucracy things, to help so that the next generation understands that, listen, what was the process? Why was it denied? Let them go through that process. And so that when the evidence comes or the information comes that determines, see, one side of the story sounds true till you hear the other side. And it's hard to unravel it. So let's get all of because that's what we are talking, that's what's happening to those of us who've been slandered. Think about it. They only listen because the one side of the story sounds real true.
And it's be the voice side.
And it's be the voice side. And so, but sometimes you never get the other side, which gives you the truth. So it's like, and I want to give another example to what Jerome spoke earlier, and this is a very healthy discussion, because, you know, if your mind isn't processed, you see, if you know where you go and who you are, ain't no box or bear could buy me or one fridge to vote or a job that I can't even take care of me for the rest of my life. Or it's a little contract for 4 weeks and stuff like that. And we are not looking and evaluating. Jerome, you said it's us who are electing the people in office, because we are not teaching the people, look at the person past, look at their history. They're not going to become who they say they are when they're elected in office.
6 months out of election.
Yes, their history informs you. And so what I'm saying is that when we get to it right quick without the process, we are missing something very, very important. And then they distract us again. So we talk about what we feel gonna get the grassroots, and you talk about marijuana, medicinal marijuana, decriminalization. And guess what? I'm not saying that, I mean, I support medicinal marijuana, right? But we know we have cultivated, and I didn't cultivate it, we have poisoned and our mindsets of the young to want party. And we know that we don't keep the laws. And we know that would be an industry that is unchecked, just like they said, alcohol, let's legalize it and it'll go away. Now we have one of the highest alcoholics countries in the entire region. We know if we do not have a disciplined community, whatever is meant to be legal will be abused. So after all of the focus we would put on that, we have the natural resources where we should not be as leaders, even though as good as the speech I heard with Mia Motley, wonderful. But then I keep hearing, well, you all give us take this and pay us and do this with the debt. All of that is good, but I don't hear how we're going to use our natural resources so that we can develop a culture of earning and empower the people, not give away money willy-nilly, but develop a culture of earning. Go to that Botswana model where diamonds have become an asset, but from the lips of their leaders, they're saying we want to diversify now because there's a lifespan in those diamond mines, and when tourism finish, we want to have something else that we could sustain and grow our life. So that's just the thing that I'm saying here. Yes, no. If Komalafi has been abused in this situation, we should not tolerate it. But we also must take the time to find out what happened so that we can bring it to the fore so everybody can understand. And I think that will help develop the intolerance in an informed way that protects our democracy.
Now that we are entering the election season, I'm going to be very interested to see again if we have any advocacy groups. I speak about this all the time. Now is the time for us to begin to advocate for the things that we want from our politicians. You talked about We March, and there was this great movement, you thought, and then a couple of people get elected. Now it's that. But this is the time that our groups should be forming to press our aspiring politicians for what they want. For equal rights for women, for more protection for children, for stiffer penalties for certain heinous crimes, for more accountability from the police, for freedom of information. Where are these groups? Where are these individuals? Why aren't they applying for permits to march? Why aren't they signing up people for petitions? Why aren't they saying, this is like you do in the States, this is your congressman telephone number? Call it. Imagine if we did that. Yeah. Imagine if we circulated the numbers of the policy. Okay, so-and-so running, this their number, call them and pin them down on these issues. Get them to commit to these issues. And when they don't deliver,
you know what to do.
You apply more pressure.
But now, can I ask this Michelle job? But Michelle, that point that he's making, what can I suggest that the two mindsets that seem to be prevailing is that we look out for our survival. Like what Michelle is doing is standing up on her conviction. And she has no fear. But I think all of us can point to examples where we have been victimized.
Yes, ma'am.
So you right there to the head of the table, to the head of the class. But what is lacking is that when you stand, the crowd that was there,
Bush Crock,
my God, all you is crickets. crickets.
That time Michelle talking to us. Yeah. Boy,
Then you turn around.
go and brace.
I know, but
You can't get no return for you can't get no. See, in developed countries, when you talk about advocacy, when you turn around and you stand up, let's say the journalists that fight for freedom and equality, they got a whole association where they raise money and they protect
each other.
each other.
You're right.
But there is no sorority or fraternity in the country where it is so set that when you see an advocacy group come forth, they are financed a lot of times by special interests. And then when you stand up for what is right, that means you
can do so confidently.
You could do so confidently because then some of them could tell you, I don't have to work no more in life.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So they can stand up good.
Right.
But now, where you talk about the fundamentals of this program, you are taking the risk of standing and being deserted. And can I suggest that this is how we are losing a lot of the skill and the value of the contribution that visionary leaders can make. Because and that's why I'm so big on process, so that we have a smart population, so that they can say, wait a minute now, this, wait a minute now, this is what happened to Michelle. No, we got to stand with her. They violated the process. No, she can't stand out there alone. Why? Because we understand, like Martin Luther King said, whatever happens to one of us directly affects all of us indirectly. So it's only a matter of time before.
Today for me, tomorrow for you.
Exactly.
But the problem is, I like Michelle and I hear she
That's
says
good for
something
her.
and and it's not about the issue,
No.
We get caught up in the personality.
Right.
And Debbie pushing that, but I like her, so
I
knowing
understand.
full well that this is something that impacts all of us.
Yeah.
I can't support that.
Yeah.
It's sad but true, y'all.
Yeah.
Listen, we got to take a break. My time going fast, eh? It's already 12:37.
That's when y'all having a good conversation.
I know. We have to take a break. But you're hearing us talk and you're saying, "Man, Michelle, you're just being too dramatic, and that'll never happen in the Bahamas." Well, you stay right there. On the other side of the break, we're going to look at some case studies where this is actually happening around the world, where censorship is impacting the quality of life for the citizens of that country. And I want you to pay a close attention to the clip I'm going to play on the other side, because Debbie just said it. Today for you, tomorrow for me. We have to not rest easy that this could never happen here. That's what I want to talk about on the other side of the break. Stay with us. You're in GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM.
Hats off, looking like I walked out of catalog. Everybody wanna know where I got it from. Catwalk, boutique, where we make fashion statements. Catwalk, boutique, where we make fashion statements.
For the latest styles in women's clothing and accessories, visit Catwalk Boutique on Robinson Road East at the Hellron Plaza. At Catwalk Boutique, we make fashion statements.
For moms-to-be and your little ones, there's Baby Bliss, the baby shower specialist, with the best selection of shower gifts, care items, and gender reveal rentals. At Baby Bliss, we carry only the finest brands to comfort mother and baby. From preemie to 24 months, we are truly the ultimate baby store. Mimi is a new tradition in ladies apparel, featuring fabulous fashions, sizes small to 3X. Look like you just stepped off the runway with trending, stylish selections that bring out the fashionista in you. Making a statement is easy when you shop at Mimi. Visit us both at the Mackey Street Plaza.
Want to look your best and feel even better? Visit J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa for the ultimate beauty, body, and anti-aging treatments, offering custom colors, haircuts, vegan anti-freeze treatments, silk blowouts, natural and acrylic nails, unisex pedicures, facials and massages, all waxing services, and microcurrent therapies for anti-aging and body sculpting. J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street, telephone 326-7863.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guests today are Jerome Sawyer and Debbie Bartlett, and we are discussing the dangers of censorship as it relates to democracy under threat. I want to read a couple of your comments before we go to our next clip. This one is from Sean. Sean, congratulations, Michelle. I'm really enjoying your show. It's about time. Talk. If we can export talk, we'll be billionaires. Time for action. Yvette says, I believe it was journalist Theo Seeley who questioned PM minutes about the possibility of breaking COVID laws regarding the dozens of F&Ms campaigning in Centerville recently. The PM said campaigners were wearing masks and following COVID protocols. Really? Okay. Paul says, it's a sad state of affairs. All right. Let's see. Melvern says, Debbie, I hear you, but dismiss what you are saying, okay? Michelle, we have to stand for something that means change the situation by voting all F&M and PLP out. Catherine says, Ms. Bartlett, these people want to keep the masses distracted. Trust me, they do not want to even discuss natural resources. For some reason, it seems as if natural resources are not for us, crown land for Bahamians. All right, so I want to go to a clip, and this is the final clip I'm going to play for the show today. And this one is looking at some case studies where democracy, well, in some cases, there is no democracy, and in others where there should be democracy, we are seeing where it's under threat because of active censorship. Let's go to the final clip.
You've probably heard of many examples of states infringing these rights. One of the most well-known is China's Golden Shield Project, nicknamed the Great Firewall of China. On a technical level, this blocks all incoming content from foreign sources that the government believes to be subversive. The government also has laws in place to arrest citizens who express dissent both online and offline. While this is an extreme example, recent developments in France show how similar measures can be introduced in a democratic state. In 2015, the French government passed a controversial internet censorship law in response to attacks in Paris. Among other things, the law allows authorities to delist websites they think incite or endorse terrorism, and to dissolve groups of people deemed to be endangering the public order. Some fear that its vague wording could be used to criminalize legitimate forms of association and assembly, both online and offline. In some cases, censorship measures like this can be circumvented with the help of tools like VPNs or anonymity networks like Tor. But it is just as important for human rights defenders to bring public attention to these violations by gathering evidence, sharing stories, and coordinating advocacy. But it's not only states that violate these rights. In response to pressure from governments and sometimes their own users, some companies are now acting as judges of appropriate online behavior. In early 2016, Twitter set up its Trust and Safety Council, a body tasked with curbing abuse and harassment on the platform. The council is composed of civil society organizations specially selected by Twitter, and there is little transparency about its role or remit. Facebook has faced criticism from different sides for its handling of these issues. On one side, it has been accused of inaction over hate speech on its platform. On the other, it has been criticized for complying with state requests to remove content and block groups. But it's important to remember that these companies also provide crucial tools for assembly and association. Take the Arab uprisings and the Umbrella Revolution in Hong Kong, for example. There, social media played a crucial role in organizing demonstrations. So the role of companies for the realization of democratic rights is rarely fixed or black and white. It's complicated and demands close attention from human rights defenders. Civil society groups have a crucial role in promoting freedom of expression, association and assembly nationally, regionally, and in relevant global forums. Advocacy arguments should be based not just on the principle of human rights, but on the practical advantages of these rights, like encouraging and enabling business environment, fighting corruption, and improving governance. Where violations happen, it's crucial that human rights defenders monitor, record, and document them. The media is one of the primary beneficiaries of free expression and therefore an important potential ally in cases where these rights are under threat. Media reports drive public discourse and can help raise awareness among the wider population. And while no one would argue that these rights are absolute, where restrictions are applied, human rights defenders should be arguing strongly for due process, so that any restrictions have judicial oversight and aren't just executive decisions.
So we as members of the media have a very important role to play, obviously, in this discussion. As she said in that clip, it's complicated. As we look to the way forward here in the Bahamas, what are some of the changes that you would like to see as it relates to protecting our democracy against censorship? What are some of the things that you would like to see us implement in this country?
Definitely freedom of information.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are long overdue for that. I think it will make our leaders a lot more accountable, I think, at the end of the day. And even our people, I wouldn't just say our leaders, because it's not just our leaders that are affected by the information that's, or it's not just our leaders that have an interest, I would say, in keeping information from the public. There are many in the public and in the public service who also benefit from this, from this. I think, to be honest, I wish the government would divest itself of the Broadcasting Corporation. As I,
Well,
I honestly don't, and whatever, the policy is, I don't think that the government, in the state that it's in, I don't think that they are doing any favors to the Broadcasting Corporation. I think the BCB has an integral and important role to play. However, having that political control by having a board that's appointed, a minister, coming under the office of the prime minister. Even if it's not direct censorship, sometimes it's, and we all know this, it's self-censorship.
Mm-hmm. We've all experienced it.
And the corporation is dying in its current state.
Yes.
And and for all of us, it's painful to watch. I can tell you, working for a competitor for the competition,
and you see how it's supposed to run.
It is dying because it is becoming less and less relevant to the Bahamian people, and people have lost confidence in its ability to function as it should. And for me, I wish, I pray that sometime soon some government will see the wisdom, not of not funding it.
It ain't gonna happen.
But letting it, relinquishing control
it ain't gonna happen
over
Jerome.
it.
It ain't gonna happen. And let me tell you why it's not gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen for the same reason why it wasn't gonna happen when we were there. Because every government that comes into power sees the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas as their mouthpiece. That's how they get their message out. Okay?
Yeah.
So they ain't giving that up. Give me a break. No disrespect to the people at BIS. But they will never give up ZNS. They don't care what you just described. They don't care how far down it goes. They don't care. At the end of the day, that is their mouthpiece. So they will never get rid of ZNS. And it's unfortunate because, I agree with you 1,000%. And when people say, I hear people say, when I say I was at the Broadcasting Corporation for 20 years, Jesus, how you spent 20 years in that place? I tell them it wasn't always as bad as it is. We know of the days when that was the place where you wanted to work as a journalist. That was the place to be.
Broadcast journalist.
What?
That's where you wanted to be.
That's where you wanted to be. We watched the destruction of that corporation bit by bit by bit. But even though it is a shadow of itself, what it used to be, what we know of as its glory days, they will never give it up.
And it has so much potential.
So much.
It has so much potential.
Look, I agree with both of you, and if I may just add a couple thoughts. I agree that the beginning is the freedom of information, and I can recall the days you all would recall when we stepped out from the Broadcasting Corporation. we were accorded the respect as any politician because they recognized, in spite of being accused in some seasons of being a propaganda machine for the government, even in the first 25 years, we probably had more balanced journalism, right or wrong, than we have today, because we were taught that you get all sides of the story. What I would like to see, because we need to restore an honor system, an honor system for each other, and that means that we have to learn to respect the office, but addressing what we disagree in the office, whether that's prime minister, minister, leader, or opposition, it doesn't make us mute. It doesn't make us dumb. It doesn't make us irresponsible. The way we address the office, it pains me. I'd never forget that I heard a foreign investor calling into a show in The Guardian. Yeah, and Perry, what kind of thing is that? What? Hubert, yeah.
Did the host correct them?
No.
The host is probably calling the Perry and Hubert himself.
Perry and Hubert. No. See.
No.
When we got to get down to the foundation.
Yeah.
When the prime minister came, when the leader of the opposition came, they put Lysol in the place and everything cleaned down.
Before COVID.
And just as you put He had a feeling COVID was
dropped it in from there.
Yeah, but you know, our leaders gave us a sense that this is something important.
Oh yeah.
And you had to wait when the leader came of the opposition or the prime minister came, you had to wait downstairs and you had to you remember? You had to escort them in. And they demonstrated they honored the office because they put the most experienced who understand the value of the opportunity and how you now, as the fourth estate, communicating to a nation the principles that's needed. Now, number two, you know, somebody from Facebook talked about, well, they don't want us to know about natural resources. And as journalists, we have to pull our game up. Don't let nobody be leading us around the mulberry bush. You know that ain't help the country. All we are doing is bringing each other down, slandering one another. We need a focus. What is the destination of the country? Economic security. And if it's not tying back to that, that includes everything. That includes education. Are we looking right now that we have so many kids, no matter, CB's let us get fooled by these things and this good progress report. You have the minister getting up there talking about the 100, 200 computers with all these thousands of children, which is the pen and paper of the 21st century. It's not all the government's responsibility, and we commend the private sector who is coming up. But we, as the media, have to really go down in there and say, what are we going to do? Because we have a whole generation which is not the government's fault, but COVID and the circumstances that we face. What are we going to do to get literacy levels up in this country, to get the pen and paper up in that country?
These are the questions.
How are the things that what are we doing with health? We're talking about, we getting the vaccine, and all we taking is from international sources that's the Gates vaccine, that is artificial intelligence, and that can kill you in the blood clots, or versus whether it is a vaccine that has been sufficiently tested and we can trust it. But where is the conversation of giving us the information of why we should be, just because somebody says so? No, we need to, as the media, try it, and I saw you doing it the other day, Jerome, and I commend you for it, with getting different voices, international voices, with our own local expertise, so we can have, the vaccine, it may be good, it may be what we need, but let's not train people to be like herds.
Just accept it because they
challenge,
and don't feel like if I ask the question, you sure this vaccine safe? No, that's the question we need to ask. But we need to put it all together so that we can answer to it. Natural resources. We were not born to be tenants in our own economy.
Oh dear.
We were born to be landlords. This is the richest country in the world. And the only reason we don't have access to it is because our minds ain't ready to access it yet.
But go ahead.
No. I just close by saying, listen. So if we can't see our leaders, whether it's in the church, whether it's in civil society, whether it's in politics, if we can't look in the past of our leaders and see that there is a love for people, that's about the bottom line is love, If we can't see love in their life for someone other than themselves, then how can we trust them to love me and to love you? And the final thing I would say is that the chairman of Heinz invited the former general manager, Sandra Knowles and I, into, who was the general manager at the time, into Ireland. And he said, the Bahamas, y'all just think too small. I said, let me show you. You all always say that the government can't run anything. He took us and he said, want to open your minds to see what life is like. We touched down. He gave us a 24-hour white chauffeur. And what the centerpiece of that trip was, and when we stayed at all of his castles, 3 or 4 of his castles, but the centerpiece was to go to their broadcasting corporation of Ireland. And it was making a profit. It's a mindset. And when we look at the, and I'm gonna
I need you to
on
wrap
this.
it because I got to give Jerome a minute to do his final thought as well.
Our final thing I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
If you notice, not all private sector media is communicating for the interest of the people.
No.
Let me put it that way.
I'm so happy you.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And
that's
she
all
was
I'm
very
saying.
diplomatic in how she
So
said it.
happy.
But
you
Mr.
said
Sawyer,
that.
giving you 1 minute to give us your final
I
thoughts.
just want to say too, and I admonish my colleagues that news is not just about the sensational and the ambulance chasing. We have a responsibility to inform our people of the opportunities that exist in this country. And that just comes from information, reporting on the things that are out there that you and me and all of us can benefit from. The opportunities, we have to inform our people, and we don't spend enough time informing our people of their rights, of the opportunities, of the things that they can benefit from. We don't enough times give them enough opportunity. Sorry, we don't give them enough information to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
It's not up to me to tell you whether to take the vaccine or not.
But give the
But
information.
let me put the information there
And
for
you make your
to be
decision.
able to make, and not foolishness.
Right.
And I can tell you now, if you're talking crazy, I can't entertain that.
Right.
Let me talk to the experts. Let me talk to the people who I can challenge, who can give answers. And we don't spend enough time doing that. So our people are ill-informed, and they make decisions based on what they get off WhatsApp and things they read off Facebook that have no basis. And, when people come and say, oh, well, I saw from who? Who you hear from?
Yeah.
What's your source? Oh, well, someone tell me. I said, well, I can't take that.
Listen, guys, it's 1 o'clock already.
Wow.
Time flew by today. And I just want to thank you both so much for agreeing to come spend some time with me here on GPS. I really do appreciate it. I enjoyed the dialogue today. I hope that we will be able to impact someone's mindset as it relates to all of this. And I want to thank you both for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. It's good to see you both.
Thank you for inviting us. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that's going to do it, guys. Time's gone. Listen, man, get the information from credible sources to make decisions in your life, whether it be political decisions or health decisions or whatever. Just make sure you make informed decisions. But also, I want to end by saying this. Wake up, people. Don't just sit back and watch your democracy being chipped at bit by bit by bit, and you say nothing. Because the day is going to come when you wake up and you ain't going to recognize the country you in. And by then, it's going to be too late to decide to take some action. So let's get busy. Let's take action. Let's require more from our leadership and those aspiring to lead. That's going to do it, guys. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. And I hope you have a good day. And I'll see you tomorrow here on GPS.